All right. All right. Well, hello, everybody. I'm really happy to greet you today from Georgia Tech in Atlanta, Georgia, and excited to speak with you about the cover letter for your academic job packet. Let's get started with some quick learning outcomes and what the expectations are for today. By the end of the workshop, you should be able to define the structure and the purpose of an academic cover letter, tailor your cover letter to align with institutional priorities, whether it's intensive or teaching intensive, align your experiences with position requirements, highlight your scholarly and teaching identity, avoid common cover letter pitfalls, and hopefully consider your tone, your length, and the strategic framing of your letter. And so, of course, one of the most important question probably is what is a cover letter? And a cover letter, in a nutshell and simply, is just a document that you're going to use to introduce yourself and to demonstrate the fit between your background and that advertised position. Simple and easy. That's all it is. Serving the purpose of your goal in with your cover letter, as with your entire academic job packet, is to persuade the search committee that you are an ideal candidate for that position. And you're going to be thinking with your cover letter as well as with your other documents, what do I know about the audience? Who am I writing to? The audience being your search committee. Who is that search committee? What is that institution? And so that's what we're going to talk about a little later. You might also want to know, do I need to tailor my cover letter? Yes, you do. You do not want to submit the same cover letter for every job. If you're applying for 10 jobs, 10 different positions, job positions, you want to submit more than likely 10 very different cover letters. The cover letters will never be identical for every institution. Is there a page limit? Yes, there is. And we'll talk a little bit about that a little bit later. Okay. So, what are some tips that I can give you for a successful cover letter? Number one, you want to tailor this cover letter to the institution and to the position for which you are applying. So, in this particular case, is it a research institution? Is it a research intensive position that you are applying for? So, you want to research that institution so that you know everything that you can possibly know about that institution. Research that department, and you want to address specific requirements in the job ad. I will note, every job ad doesn't look the same. Some job ads will give you detail upon detail about what is expected, what the job position is, and some of them are really general in that they may say we're hiring tenure or non-tenure track professors at different levels. It can be very general. But you want to know as much as you possibly can, so you want to do as much research as you can into that position. You want to highlight your relevant experience and your achievements. So emphasize research accomplishments. You want to showcase your teaching experience as well. And you want to possibly include some service activities. You want to demonstrate a clear fit and possible future contributions that you can make once you are at that institution. So you want to align it with the department goals. You want to consider possible collaborations. You want to propose perhaps some future plans. Again, this isn't a long letter, so this is a lot and this is a mouthful, but you'll see in a little while how you can kind of chunk this and pare this down just for your cover letter. You want to display professionalism and attention to detail. So you want to have a professional tone, a professional structure to the letter. And you want to, as with all of your documents, proofread, edit, have somebody else look at it for you to give you some feedback. And you want to reflect your unique voice and your passion. Remember, they're going to get multiple applications and multiple cover letters. So you definitely want to stand out. So demonstrate your passion for the field. You want to be authentic. You want to be enthusiastic. You want to be clear. You want to be concise and concrete. Oh, going the wrong way. And so this is just a quick checklist. These are some essential questions that your cover letter should answer. Let me be very clear that I'm not saying that everything that I show you in this checklist you need to check off, but these are definitely those things that you want to use to highlight yourself and highlight your strengths for that particular position. One of those, you're going to have an introduction. So, what position are you applying for? Right? You want to answer, why are you qualified? Do you foreshadow in that cover letter what you will cover in the rest of the letter itself? So almost like an opening statement. Am I giving them some information about what I'm going to talk about next? Your research, what kind of scientist or engineer or whatever your discipline is, what kind are you? What do you research? What major publications have you produced? Have you written or received grants for your research? Those are all those things that highlight how special you are and why they should consider you. When it comes to teaching, what teaching experience do you have? And is it appropriate for the department or the institution you're applying to? What mentoring experience do you have? Because keep in mind, mentoring is teaching as well. Other things on the checklist, inclusion, particularly if they ask you, how have you or will you support diversity, equity, inclusion, or just thinking about how am I going to support all of my students, all of my constituents? How do your current and future efforts to support DEI connect to your research or teaching? You want to have a conclusion, just like with any written document. Do you reiterate or your qualifications and your strengths? Have you described what you will bring to the department and the institution? And just overall, your cover letter should be no more than 2 pages. Generally, in our fields in engineering, I know we usually limit it to about 1 page. Your cover letter should not be a restatement of your CV. So you're not having to go through and talk about and rewrite everything. So no more than 2 pages. Did you use the same action verbs from the job ad? The job ad gives you all the information if it's a detailed job ad of what they're looking for. So you should be mirroring that language that they use in that job ad again to show how you fit in this position. Did you italicize, bold, underline important headings and or phrases, calling attention to those significant things? I won a Nobel Prize when I was in my second year of graduate school. Yay. You might want to bold that. And so the next thing we're going to do, we're going to go look at what goes into the cover letter by looking at a sample cover letter that's been annotated. And we're going to go step by step with that. This will be made available to you along with the slides. So you will have this as a resource for later. So let's start. What goes into the cover letter? And let's start with the heading. Heading includes your address, your receiver's address, the date, and the greeting. And so generally, as you can see here, this is a block style business letter using 1 inch margins. You don't have to cheat your margins. I might be dating myself. I don't know if formal letter writing is taught the way that it used to be when I was growing up. There was block style, modified block style. So we learn how to write business letters, how to address. So this letter here is for a research focused position in a STEM department. So just keep that in mind as we go through. But just notice we have your mailing address. You can also use departmental letterhead. If you have access to letterhead within your department, you can use that. And honestly, that will save you the 2 lines here where you would normally have your address because generally the letterhead has the school's address on there. You want to make sure that you date it. Here you can see this letter is addressed to an individual within the department, often the chair of the search committee. You don't always have that information. If you do, that's helpful. But many times you don't have that. So what you can put there instead of a person's name, you can just put the search committee, just so you are addressing it to someone. And so here, where we have Dear Dr. Matthews with a colon that follows, again, we're using this formal block style business structure. Or you can say Dear Search Committee if you don't have an individual's name that you can provide. All right, so that's the heading of your letter. And I don't know, do we have any questions yet? I guess I could pause at this point. Feel free to ask questions along the way. We are monitoring the chat and monitoring everything. So please let us know if you have any questions.
We
All
have a few
right.
people that raised their hand. Tammy, sorry to interrupt.
Okay.
To the people that raised their hand, in order for you to speak, I have to promote you up on the up on the board here. So if you're all right with that, I'll start with Teresa, I think.
Yes, I am perfectly fine. Come on up. If I don't know the answer, Beth does.
Okay, Teresa should be coming up here soon.
Okay, there she is. Hi,
So if you had a
Teresa.
question, Teresa, please go ahead. Or maybe it was an accident.
Uh-oh.
Oh, we have a few other raised hands here. I'll start promoting
Okay.
people.
Oh, can you hear me now? Hello?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So you did intentionally come up here. Yes, Teresa, go ahead.
Hi. I had a question about the part where we can use our letterhead. So is that the letterhead from the school or the letterhead to who who we are going to apply for? So,
The letterhead from where you are currently in school, where if you are a graduate student at Georgia Tech in the
mm,
material science and engineering department, if you can get the material science and engineering letterhead, use that. So where you are currently.
okay, and not your personal address, but the school itself.
If you have some nice letterhead that you can use, as long as, yeah, you can use that as well. But it's helpful when you do use, particularly whatever institution you're at, that gives those little quick snippets of information that you pass on to the search committee. And I mean, that's an easy way that you can quickly get yourself on their radar. Oh, she's at, and especially if it's this institution that everybody celebrates, that's a very well-known institution, or maybe if it's not a well-known institution, it tells them immediately where you are and they can situate you in among the other applicants. So yeah.
Okay, so I can use the letterhead from Arizona State University, and I can use Health Solutions because that's the department that I'm from. So they'll exactly know what department I'm. Is that correct?
Exactly. That is
Okay,
exactly correct. Thank you for that
thank
question.
you.
All right.
All right, and then
Kevin.
Kevin, yes.
Yes, give me just a brief moment.
Sure. Do we want to go on to somebody else until Kevin gets ready?
I think Jennifer had their hand raised, but Jennifer, we can't like allow you to speak from the attendees section based on Zoom permission. So if you want to ask your question in the Q&A, please feel free. I think that's then all we had for
Looks like Kevin's.
questions.
Yeah, is it all right if I talk now?
Yes.
Yes.
First and foremost, thank you so much for running this professional development. I'm in the position right now where I'm looking for some adjunct work right now. I'm not looking for a tenure track just yet. And I'm also considering some community college experiences just because I'm relatively new in my career. And I was curious to know if the advice that you're giving right now would be broad enough to be focused or broad enough to be able to support that, or if you have any specific advice if I'm looking for adjunct work and thinking about community colleges too. Thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you for your question. Yes, this is broad enough to support. At the end of the day, this is a professional letter. And no matter what domain you are writing a letter in, the details might be a little bit different, but the structure is going to be the same. You want to present yourself in a professional manner. You want it to be very clear about what experiences you have that fit with what they're looking for, because that's really what you're trying to highlight. You asked for someone who can do this. These are the things that I have done, which is evidence that I can potentially do it where you are asking. So yeah, so this is you can use this postdoc, adjunct, whatever. Yeah, community college. It can work everywhere. Okay. Were there any other questions I need to?
We have some in the Q&A, but I think we'll get to those at the end.
Cool.
And Beth will help with
No
that. So
worries.
go ahead
Okay.
and
Okay.
continue.
We will go ahead to the next section. And our next section is your opening paragraph. And this is where you get to introduce yourself to the search committee and to anyone reading your letter. So you want to refer to the specific position for which you're applying, how you learned about that position or the institution, including where you saw the posting and the job reference number that comes with it. You want to briefly explain why you're interested in the position, why you're interested in that institution, and be very specific. Include a thesis statement that outlines the reasons you are applying for the job and what makes you such an excellent candidate for that. And so let's take a look at what that looks like. Here's an opening paragraph from the letter that I was just showing you. And it's kind of color coded, but notice that in pink, they are very specific about the position they're applying for. I am writing to apply for the position of assistant professor in structural engineering beginning fall 2014 as advertised on your department website. So this may not have had a job number, but you're telling me exactly what position you're applying for, where you saw that position. I'm currently a doctoral candidate at the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign. You're setting the tone, telling them where you are, but you're also telling them when you're available. I expect to complete my PhD by May 2014, because generally the job ad is going to tell you when they want these people to start. So they may want them to start again beginning fall 2014. Well, I complete everything that I need to complete by May 2014, signaling to them that you will be available when that job opens. I am extremely interested. I believe in showing enthusiasm. Enthusiasm doesn't always have to come with pom-poms and bells and whistles and everything. Something as simple as I am extremely interested in obtaining a faculty position at the University of Texas where I can, and this is where they say you're giving them the why of why you're interested. Why are you interested in this position? Why are you a good fit? Glad you asked, because I can contribute to your focus on engineering education, and I can continue my research on concrete structures, and I can lead campus and professional service activities. So now you're hinting at some things you've probably already done, but you're hinting at what you can do at that institution. All right. Hope that makes sense. Any pressing questions? And if not, we will move on. All right. Now we're going to shift into the body paragraphs of the letter. All right. This is a description of your achievements and your qualifications. This is where you get to paint a picture of yourself in this job. You want to address the requirements and the desired skills that are outlined in the job posting. Again, go to that job posting. That's where you want to start. I don't know, and I'm pretty sure Beth has spent a lot of time as well working on draft crafting job postings. Those aren't easy to draft. They spend a lot of time getting those bullet points together, and I've been a part of that as well. It's not as easy as it seems. So it's important to them that they find somebody that can actually fit those bullet points, not necessarily to a T. You don't think that you have to fit every 100% of the time or to that level. But yes, they put a lot of time into that. So make sure you pay attention. Provide brief, specific examples to demonstrate your skills and experience. You are not simply repeating your CV. Every document in your job application packet, they work in tandem. So you don't have to put everything on your cover letter because guess what? They're going to read your CV as well. Each document works together to tell the full story of you. So don't just repeat the bullet points that are on your CV. If it's a major research institution, you want to stress your interest in conducting research and you want to elaborate on current research that you're doing now. But what will you do for them? And this is an opportunity to mention potential collaborations. Don't go overboard because you don't have to name drop or do all of that. That's not the expectation. But again, you're trying to highlight how what you're doing is going to fit into what they are already doing and even elevate what the type of research that they're doing at their institution. If it's a liberal arts or maybe a more teaching focused college, you want to emphasize your interest, your commitment, and experience in teaching and in undergraduate education. And so, with each claim you make, you should be backing it up with evidence. And we're going to see this in this next sample portion of a cover letter, what it means to make a claim and then provide some evidence to support that claim. So here's a paragraph. The first claim that this person makes is that my academic training and 6 years of experience working as a structural engineer prepare me to be an effective researcher and instructor in not just any department, but in your department. And so then, well, okay, that's great. You have that. Let me give you a little evidence to support why this claim is effective. My doctoral dissertation was conducted in consultation with Professor John Smith. The advisor's name serves almost as a witness in this case to your claim, right? And usually, if you're putting somebody's name on here, they're usually well known in the field. So the search committee or that department would likely recognize for who Professor John Smith is and like, oh, we know that this is, you've had a great research program. So the rest of the evidence examines the use of a relatively new methodology for the design of joints, walls, footings, and other portions of reinforced pre-stressed concrete structures. They add a little bit more of evidence by saying, I developed. That's a strong action verb there. Developed. Okay. I did something. This was the action. This was some output from me. I developed an integrated design and analysis environment for this methodology in which both strength and serviceability requirements are explicitly satisfied. This was delivered, getting very detailed. Let me show you how I did it. This was delivered in a computer-based program that is freely available to the community and has now been downloaded by more than 2,500 people. My interest is piqued. I want to know more about this person. So you know what I'm going to do as a part of the search committee? I'm going to mosey on over to this person's research statement because I guarantee you that's where I'm going to find out more information about this research project. So again, reiterating what we said on the previous slide, you don't have to reiterate what's on your CV. You don't have to reiterate what's in your research statement. This is where you're giving them those introductory nuggets for who you are to show that you are a good fit. Again, a little bit more enthusiasm here. I am excited. But now you're about to tell them what you will do for them, what your plans are, and how you plan to expand on what you've already done. I'm excited to share and continue to explore this methodology and collaborate with your department faculty to expand its potential. Well, how do you plan to do that? Again, that's probably going to be in the research statement when you outline and summarize what your future research goals are. Okay? So again, you don't have to say everything here. Okay? Let's go to these next set of paragraphs. They start the third paragraph with another claim. In addition to my dissertation research, other areas of interest that interest me for future research stem from my goal of developing improved analytical models and methods for design, evaluation, and upgrade of concrete structures subjected to monotonic and reverse loading, as well as structures equipped with passive systems. Okay, that's great. Tell me more. Some evidence to support this claim. One of the studies I have started is the development of a performance-based seismic design. I've started doing a study. This is the work I'm doing right now. More evidence. I've also worked on the evaluation and improvement of the accuracy of nonlinear static analysis, dot, dot, dot. And then finally, they emphasize what they want to do. So these are just a couple of the projects I plan to continue and grow with the support of the University of Texas. Notice how they put that little tailoring in there. I'm not just going to do this out in the wild, out in the world. I'm going to do this at the University of Texas because I think that's where I will be at home with my research. So again, they can read more about that over in the research statement. They can also look on this person's CV and see a little bit more of an outline or chronological outline of what they've done. They can see the list of publications there that have come from this research. So again, you don't have to tell everything in this one document. Moving on to the next paragraph, they open it with a claim. During my graduate training, I was also fortunate enough to have served as a teaching assistant. So I've told you a little bit about my research. Now let me talk to you a little bit about my teaching, because I don't care what institution you land at, you will teach. So you need to show that you have put some time and energy into your teaching development as well. So during my graduate training, I was fortunate enough to have served as a teaching assistant, occasionally substitute lecturer for an intermediate level course on reinforced concrete design. If I'm reading that, I'm like, oh, wow, they've actually not only been a teaching assistant, but they lectured. If they lectured, then that means they must have designed some lessons. If they designed some lessons, they delivered some lessons. If they delivered some lessons, they likely created some assignments, designed some assignments. They likely grade. So I'm getting a picture, even just from this little bit, of who you are as an instructor and the experience that you have. But again, I'll mosey on over to your teaching statement, where you can then give me some more information about your teaching trajectory and the types of development and experiences you've had with teaching. So the evidence to support that, I found that my professional experience as an engineer provided me with a broad view that is useful in assisting students with projects and assignments. So this is why I'm so good in the classroom, because it pairs well with my research and who I am as a researcher and my identity as a researcher. Why these experiences matter? These experiences have built my confidence and an interest in teaching. Yay! More enthusiasm. I look forward to the opportunity. Yes, you do. And what do you plan to do for them? I look forward to not only teaching existing courses, but also work to develop new ones. Again, going over to that teaching statement, he probably says a little bit more about the types of courses that they want to, or she wants to develop. Okay, so those are the body paragraphs. And then following that, we have to have a closing paragraph. You have to close out the letter. Remember, this is a professional, formal letter. So you want to have a concluding paragraph that's going to reinforce your interest and reinforce your enthusiasm. So you're going to talk to them about the next steps you'd like to see. You want to state that you look forward to speaking to them. You want to say thanks to the search committee for their time and consideration, because they are spending their time considering you, reading your entire job application packet. You want to end with a professional closing, kind regards, sincerely, and your full name. Okay? Not later. Talk to you soon. None of that. Something professional. And so this is what this looks like in the sample letter. Notice they open with next steps. I would enjoy discussing this position with you in the weeks to come. Meaning, I'm really hoping that you you see me as someone who fits within your department, and that you will invite me for an interview, a first round interview. In the meantime, I am enclosing my curriculum vitae and statements of teaching and research interests. Letters of recommendation will arrive under separate cover. And that sentence right there, institutions don't always ask for letters of recommendation in advance. Sometimes they may ask for a list of references or or potential references that they can reach out to. But often you won't necessarily have that information or need to have that information with your cover letter and with your packet. If you require any additional materials or information, I am happy to supply it. And then you say, thank you. Thank you very much for your consideration. Okay, be kind, be nice. And so notice the professional closing here, they use sincerely, and you want to put your full name. This is Carol Alexander in this particular case. And so just note again that this cover letter is only 1 page in length. The CV, the research statement, the teaching statement is always going to provide more detailed information to the search committee. And this letter is giving the search committee members just a quick glimpse of who you are, and it should pique their interest to know more about you professionally. And so what are your next steps now? Now you just have to write. I usually encourage people, the cover letter is generally the last of that series of documents that you're going to write, because again, you're just really summarizing and pulling out those highlights in there. But your next step, you want to write your drafts. And again, you don't want to write these in isolation. So schedule a consultation. Here at Georgia Tech, we do one-on-one consultations with our graduate students and our postdocs who are on the job market, and we can give them immediate feedback on their job application packets, including, and I say CV here, but have your cover letter reviewed. All right, have someone look at it for you. And we get to questions. See, that didn't take so long. That was 33 minutes of your time. And now we have the rest of the time for any questions that you might have, or for me or Beth to review anything that you might have, any concerns. Let's talk.
So Tammy, on the earlier questions, there was a lot of specifics about the heading and the letterhead. If you want to scroll up, you might be able to answer.
Yeah.
There was multiple, from font sizes to, do I put my department name, then put my mailing address, a little bit more
Mhm.
specifics. Okay.
Okay, let's talk more about that. So let's talk more about the heading again. So again, you can go in two directions with a heading. If you are using department letterhead or any type of letterhead, generally that is going to all come pre-addressed. And all you have to do is, it's like a template, and you just drop your letter. Usually the first line that you will start with in that case would be the date, because now you don't have to put a return address. The return address is usually integrated somewhere in that letterhead. All letterheads are designed differently. Like for instance, for my department, for the Center for Teaching and Learning at Georgia Tech, the mailing address is in the footer of the first page. Sometimes that mailing address, depending on the department, depending on where you are, the institution, whatever their standard letterhead is, it might be in the header of the page. But generally, you don't have to, if you're using the letterhead, you don't have to repeat that address part, and you can begin your letter. The first line could be with the date. You do want to put the current date. Now, if you are just writing a letter from just on a blank sheet of paper, a blank Word document, and you start there, you do want to start again using this block style, this business style, with your address, your mailing address, and you can still even use your departmental address or another address if you don't want them to know. If you don't want to dox yourself and put where you live, you could be a PO box even, where however you want to do that, whatever you feel comfortable releasing, and then the date. And then again, the information, like here, notice that I have Dr. John Matthews, Civil Engineering, University of Texas. I have their address. All that information is publicly available on these institutions' websites. You can just go to the contact information, and usually they have a mailing address there for you to include. Did that cover everything that was in that question?
There's that one. And then the font and the
Oh,
text size. Yeah.
okay. Font, don't go too small. I think this might be 10-point font. I can't remember what the font is, but any type of font. Times New Roman is fine. Arial is fine. Just don't get too fancy. Like Comic Sans, you would never submit a professional letter in Comic. You would never submit anything with Comic Sans. So let's just be clear. But yes, you do want to margins, 1 inch margins on each side. I know we love to skirt a margin and have those margins going almost to the end of the page, but you don't have to cheat your margins. Again, this isn't a standalone document. This document is coming with other documents where you've had the opportunity to detail everything out. So 10-point font should be fine because most people are likely going to read it on their screen. But there is a chance that that someone might read it. They might print it out. There are still those who love to print their documents, and then you don't want the font to be so small that they can't see it. Another thing I will say, if your letter does carry over 2 pages, you want to make sure that you also carry over your name and your address. So maybe in the header portion of the letter, you can have your full name again and then the page number. Because if someone does print it out, again, you don't want them to lose your documents or get them mixed up.
Okay, that's great. And now there was multiple questions that address the AI components. How do you, when you submit your cover letters with all the AI stuff out there, how do you make yours stand out, especially with the hiring, when you post stuff in job boards, or positions, I'm reading this going into here, that the reader flags certain things for your cover letter to make it stand out versus someone else, and then working with basically the AI system.
Okay, so,
Does that make
oh,
sense?
wow. This is, so your letter isn't, and correct me if I'm going down the wrong line answering this, maybe I misunderstood the question. So your letter is going to be targeted specifically for a position, right?
Mhm.
So that's not going to be publicly available to anybody else. It's just going to go to that search committee. That search committee is going to, they have, again, in that job posting, this is what we're looking for. You're responding to that job posting and you're sending it directly to this search committee. The people on this search committee outside of HR at that institution are the only ones that are going to see it. The job
Yes.
posting itself. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry. Mhm.
No, that's actually a good point. The other point is, how do you get it past the
Past HR.
HR? And so I think you have to use the targeted words like you were saying in the job description. It's very
Yeah,
important
yeah.
that you use those.
That is exactly right. Make sure
Mhm.
you are responding to what they asked for. If they said, I don't know, we want someone who has experience in underwater basket weaving, and you don't put that on your letter, you're knocking yourself out of the running for that position. Generally, HR is doing just, do they qualify? Do they have a PhD? Do they have those very specific requirements for that position? Will they be finished by a certain time? But and then once it gets into the hands of the search committee, after it's been screened through HR, the search committee are the ones that are going to start nitpicking and saying, okay, let's look closely at this person's CV. Let's look closely at their cover letter. And that's when you need to start targeting those words that are in that job posting. But I always stress, you also have to do your research, and you should know what's happening in that department at that institution. That's goes into tailoring this letter. What types of research are they already doing? Who was the last person they hired in this position, into an assistant professor position in this department? What were their experiences? I mean, people's CVs are available publicly online, so you can see what research and what qualifications they were bringing to the table when they hired that person. And so there are so many ways that you can kind of spice up your cover letter and your entire job application packet to fit what that particular institution, that particular department is looking for. I hope I hit what they were trying to get at.
Can
Mhm.
you see the Q&A board? I'm trying to answer as quick as
Oh,
possible,
you know
but they just
what?
keep
I should
they just keep
probably
coming in faster
open.
than I can type.
Oh gosh, let me see. Where is the Q? Ah, there it is.
Right here.
Haha. All right. Page lengths, discipline specific. Yes, page lengths pretty much are discipline specific. In what I've usually in the humanities, social sciences, I think those are some that can go a little bit longer. Um, and so, yes. And sometimes you will even find, I've seen job postings that will even put a limit on how long the documents can be. And so just make sure you read it carefully and follow instructions. Let's see, do we still need to sign a digital cover letter, like insert an image? Yes, insert an image of your signature. Yep, great question. I keep a digital signature so that I can make sure that I drop that in there. Let's see, is the opening paragraph also an appropriate part where I can discuss my current position? For example, I'm currently in a non-academic job, but I am aiming to come back to academia. Is that something that should be expanded upon here or just mentioned? Oops, where'd it go? Oh, shoot. Where did that go? I
I can
lost
post
your
that in the
question.
chat for you, Tammy.
Uh,
The
okay, thank
question.
you.
Yep.
Yes, if you are someone who is coming back, this is what I'm currently doing. I'm interested in returning to academia. Yeah, you can write a sentence or two summarizing that in the opening of the paragraph because now that's telling me why you're applying for this job. But then again, in the following paragraphs, you also want to show some evidence, make some claims and show some evidence why you would still be a valuable person in this position. So yes, it is perfectly fine to say that to make that your current status. I'm currently in a non-academic job. That is perfectly fine. Let's see, would the cover letter then be a good place to use informal examples of mentoring, teaching, service, etc., work that didn't come with a formal title and CV entry? That is okay. So the way that you can talk about that in your cover letter, like for instance, let's say you've never won a teaching award or anything like that. This is where you can spotlight the fact that you care about good teaching. You can say something about maybe some professional development you have had in teaching, but you can just speak about what does teaching mean to you in general? What does good mentoring mean to you in general? And this is who I am as an instructor. And yeah, then again, they can go on over to the CV and over to your teaching statement to learn more about that. And so you don't have to, yeah, it doesn't have to be something, but just the umbrella title of teaching, the umbrella title of mentoring. I hope that helps. Let's see, what do you do if your field is so niche that quantitative data is not very impressive? Example, your example of 2,500 downloads. What if you are one of only 10 people studying X in the country? What if you are only teaching a class of 30 students rather than 200? That's perfectly fine. Again, look at that institution. What is that institution looking for? Will that fit into that institution? If you are only one of 10 people studying something in the country, that's probably going to make you stand out more than somebody else that is coming from a group where everybody is studying that, right? So because now you're bringing something, like you said, something new, something niche to the field. Make an argument in your letter and in the rest of your packet as to why what you are doing would be a great fit at that institution. Because that's what you're doing. Again, like we said in that earliest slide, you're just persuading them. These are persuasive documents. You're trying to persuade them that the experience that I have, the training that I have is going to enhance the quality of your institution and your department. Let's see, is the steering committee supposed to respond to my job application regardless of its response, positive or negative? Generally, and I'm assuming you're talking about the search committee. Generally, if the search committee gets to your letter, if they review your documentation, they they should. And I'll just be honest, it doesn't happen in all cases, that they will send out. People will wait and there's, I haven't heard from them. I haven't heard from them. I guess that means I didn't get called. But if you are contacted, for instance, if you do go through round one of the interview process, or you're invited to do round two of the interview process, they're especially going to tell you then. But if they have received applications, and in all cases, I can't guarantee you that they're going to thank you for applying to this job. We went in a different direction. Usually they don't do that in all cases. And Beth, you can add some more context to that from your institution too. I'd love to hear what you have to say.
Best practices, that means they usually should apply, respond to that. That's best
Yeah.
practice, professional practice. However, I have not seen that. Sometimes, I guess it's all in some of it's institutional practices. I know that even just getting my faculty job, now this was 2026. I mean, I applied and I didn't hear anything for like 3 months, 4 months. Thought I didn't get it, but coming, there was a department head change or a dean change. And so
Mhm.
because of those things that I was not aware of, the position is necessarily not going away. It was slow to drag out. So don't feel so disheartened if you don't hear
Yeah.
anything. But best practice means they should follow up with you in some side of letter, like, yes, we're pursuing another candidate. There's usually just a very standard form letter that comes out with that. That's all. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I would encourage you to, if you feel like you submitted something, you didn't hear anything back, and you thought you should have had a good chance. Particularly if the search committee chair's name is in the job posting, you can write a short email and just say, "Hi, my name is. I recently applied for a position. I'm really interested in your school," because however you want to format it, but just ask them. I was just wondering if you all had gone in a different direction. Is that job posting still open? Are you still considering candidates? Whatever the question might be, but you can reach out to them and ask them, find out what happened with the position. Yeah. Um, should we use point form to enhance readability? I'm sorry, I'm not sure what you're asking there. Beth or Zoe, do you know what that means? Should we use point form to enhance readability? I might be misreading. I
They're
don't
like
know.
bullet
I'm not
points
sure.
and bulleted lists and things like that.
Oh, bullets. Okay. If you mean bullets, and this is from Chunyin, if you mean bullet points in the letter, I wouldn't suggest using bullet points for anything in the letter. No, just it's a formal letter. Just use full sentences for everything. Because again, you're not reiterating what's already in your other documents. Your CV is your bulleted form in bulleted summary of who you are in your experience. Let's see, would it be okay to mention in my cover letter that even I don't have a permanent work permit? I have the option of applying for a STEM optional, so I don't need sponsorship for it. Nope, don't. I wouldn't put that in my cover letter. You're not at the point of having that type of discussion. That to me is a negotiation piece when they decide that they want to make an offer to you. That is not the cover letter, and those initial job documents is not where you want to bring that conversation. Should we use color on the documents? I've seen documents with a color bar at the top and or bottom. As long as it's not just I shy away from. I mainly want to say no, recognizing also that some letterhead has the school's colors, and I think that is fine. I wouldn't, depending if it's something just simple, just a little small bar or something just to give some type of style to it without it being overbearing, I would say it's okay. Just don't go overboard. Don't use colored fonts. Don't do that. Let's see, is it still a good idea to send an email to the hiring person after submitting an application? Yes, it is. And I would even suggest that you send that maybe after the job posting has closed, maybe a week or two after, if you haven't heard anything, and just checking in to say, hey, I did submit my application. I just want to see what the status might be. What are the benefits, disadvantages to including proposed courses you would like to teach at the university or summarizing courses you have taught, particularly if the application doesn't request a teaching statement? So I would, again, you won't be able to go into great detail with this, but if you want to, if you are going to include, and you should, because if you go to an institution, research, teaching, service, those are the pillars. And so I would maybe a couple sentences about your teaching experience and maybe some of the accolades that you may have received in teaching. I also encourage applicants when you are submitting your job application documents. In most cases, when you're submitting documents to the portal, there is just oftentimes an opportunity to submit additional documents. They say, do you have any additional documents that you want to submit? And that is when you can submit something, submit a teaching statement. Submit maybe a syllabus that you have created. Submit your, if you have some teaching evaluation scores or something like that that you want to submit. Maybe you have a paper, a peer-reviewed paper that you want to show off. Those are the types of things that you can submit then. But yeah, so talk a little bit about it, but you won't be able to go into great detail at all. Do you review draft application packets only from students at Georgia Tech, or is it open to anyone? That is a very good question. I am, depending on how busy my schedule is, I will consider. So email me, and if you want to talk about that, we can schedule some time. I think my email address is on one of these slides. And so, yeah, feel free to email me. I don't mind.
I'll send it out afterwards too, Tammy, if that's all
Oh,
right with
thank
you.
you. Thank you. I appreciate that. Let's see. What is the maximum length both for fresh and experienced candidates? So I'm going to return. I don't know if for the person who asked that question, if they were here last week for the CV talk, when, we talked about the CV not necessarily having a length, because I mean, that's just going to get longer and longer as you go through your career. The cover letter, on the other hand, I think is standard in both cases, whether you are new to the field or seasoned in the field, your cover letter should not be super, super long. And so I would say stick to these same format here, whether you are fresh or seasoned. Let's see, what if you are looking for a postdoc and writing a cover letter, not for application, but to introduce yourself? What are the best strategies? So if you're writing a letter of introduction to someone, maybe there's a professor somewhere who might have a postdoc opening up in their department, same strategies. Write it in the same way that you, hi, my name is, I am, and you're not writing to something specific in this case, unless they do have a postdoc that is a postdoc position that you're writing to. But you want to introduce yourself in the same way, depending on what they're looking for. They're looking for somebody to do these things in this postdoc position. You want to address those things and show evidence that claims and evidence that you could fit into that position. So use the same strategies. So yes, write a cover letter in the same way. All right. If you are applying for an online job posting and uploading the cover letter online, do we still need to add the from and to address at the beginning? Yes, because if you're uploading this as a PDF, and it is a document in that case, uh, yes, you do. If it's a letter, you do. If you're talking about just submitting, I don't know, an email or something for a job posting, you don't necessarily need to format it in letter format, but I can't think of many cases where that's what you would be doing. So yeah, if you're uploading a document, that document should be formatted as a letter. if they ask for a cover letter. Yes.
I know, Tammy,
What are
we only
some
have a
more?
few more questions left, but I saw this
Oh,
one.
yeah, go ahead.
This question really intrigued me. Do we
Hmm.
have any thoughts on applying for a position that has been posted for a long time? Should we reach out to the department before preparing and submitting these materials to ensure that they are still considering for the position? She said that she's looking at a position that's been open and posted since October of 2025. Yes.
Mm, thank
Yes,
you.
because
Yes.
it's only a few months old. You don't know what has happened in the department during that time. You could have had staff changes, dean, department
Hmm.
head changes. Um, Sometimes they did have the position and then none of the candidates were solid enough. And so they've just kept the position open.
Yes.
Most HR departments keep the position open even when they're starting
Hmm.
to look through candidates.
Yeah.
Just letting you that sometimes the search committee doesn't necessarily close a job. Now, some do, but some don't. So yes. So Tammy, I don't know if you want to add to that one.
No, perfectly, because and just because someone a job offer doesn't mean that they're going to accept it. And so they could have
Mhm.
had they offered the job to and something fell through, because even when you're offered a job, you have to go through the process of background search and all the things. So anything can happen. So yes, please just reach out to them. I just wanted to verify that this position is still open and accepting applications, because I'm extremely interested in working in your department. Yep.
I
All
think we
right.
have time for maybe one more question, and I'm going to quickly throw this one
Sure.
out there because it has quite a few upvotes. Question from
Sure.
Candace: Is it important to talk about your experiences in chronological order as almost storytelling, or should you separate your paragraphs by the three pillars: research, teaching, and service?
Hmm. I think it's, again, let the job posting guide what you talk about. What they're looking for is what you want to spotlight. If it's a teaching focused institution, you want to make sure that teaching is the thing that you highlight. And you don't have to talk about everything from your teaching past. Again, remember, you're picking out those things that show you in a light and spotlight that, look, I did this, and this is a very good fit for what it is that you're looking for someone to do in that role. That's what you're trying to show. For the
Mhm.
chronological history of who you are and your job, they're going to go to your CV, right? And so no, you don't have to talk about it chronologically.
No, that is correct. Tailor
Yeah.
that CV for what the job is asking for. Mhm.
Yes,
Now you can
please.
mention few elements of service and you can still mention elements of
Mhm.
research because if it's teaching position, you can do teaching as research and you've got,
Mhm.
or service like on curriculum committees and things like that. So it's a relatable type of service part. So, but yes, focus that cover letter on what the job is asking for. All right, I think we're out of
Yep.
time, Zoe.
Yep, we're
There's
out
so
of
much more
time
Are
questions, I
here.
we?
can't keep up.
Oh
I'm
my
gonna go ahead
gosh.
and
Thank you all for your questions. I wasn't expecting this many, honestly.
I couldn't keep up. I'm trying to write. I was like, oh my gosh. So,
Well, I appreciate everybody. Thank you.
Well,
mhm.
a big thanks to Beth and Tammy too for answering questions and for giving the presentation. And thanks to all of you for coming. I've been mentioning this in the chat and the Q&A, but again, I'll follow up with the slides and other materials, and the Q&A log, the transcript, things like that. Recordings, we have to get them captioned and posted, so those will take a little bit longer to be available. But again, we're working on that. And thank you so much for being here today, everyone. And with that, we're at the top of the hour. So I'll cut off the